Pentateuch, because this is a very big subject. But I will try to introduce to you what Pentateuch is, so that when you read, you understand something. That's all. When someone feels free, you can also keep your videos open so that I don't speak to the wall always. Anyway, Pentateuch is the law book of the Jews. Means the Bible is traditionally divided into three parts: the Old Testament and the New Testament. When we come, they are four parts. So three parts Old Testament traditional division is Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. This you should be knowing. Law, prophets, and writings. And in academically also you can divide it. Pentateuch, historical books, and the wisdom books. So this way, there are several divisions, but generally, the traditional division goes Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. Means Torah is the law. Torah directly means instruction. And now when we say Torah, this is the law book. Then you have Nevi'im, the prophets, and then you have the writings. And we are going to learn about Torah. Torah is, in Greek, it is called Pentateuchos, from where the name Pentateuch comes. Okay, thank you. Pentateuch means it's a 5-book composition. Penta in Greek means 5. Pentateuchos. There are 2 words combined. And law, when you say it is law book, what does it mean? This is the first question. Law means you will find almost all the laws, or basically all the laws that a person has to keep so that he be an Israelite. This is the definition, you can say. It means if I want to be an Israelite, or if I am an Israelite, that means people in covenant with God, you have to keep all these laws. These laws are narrated in Pentateuch, in these 5 books. And if you go to the book, this is seen in this way. First, you will have Genesis. I will explain it again. Genesis. Then you have the history of the patriarchs there. Then you have the story of the eponymous fathers, that is the tribes. Then you have the people coming to Egypt for they were just traveling because of famine. Then they became slaves in Egypt. Then God redeemed them with power, redeemed them and led them to the Mount Sinai in 3 months. And there God asked them, you have seen all these things, how I have miraculously delivered you. So are you willing to be my people and I will be your people? This is the God's suggestion. And the people said, yes, we are willing to be your people and you will be our God. This is seen in chapter 19 of Exodus, because people had the occasion to see who God is, and they have seen all these miracles of God, how powerful he is, and then God is suggesting this. And from 20 onwards, Exodus 20 onwards, you have a God giving them all the laws. That is, to be an Israelite, they have to keep all the laws. And this goes till Deuteronomy 34, till the end of Pentateuch. So from chapter 20 onwards, Exodus, you have precisely all the laws given, that Israel keep the laws. And actually, what do you find in before? That is Genesis 1 to Exodus 18 is the context where the law is given. And actually, the law is narrated or commanded in the context of their desert journey. 40 years of desert journey, the law is narrated. So this is a general structure of the book, no Pentateuch. Now we have 5 books in Pentateuch. I know that you are knowing all these books, the names, or you have learned it now itself. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. That is, you have to be thorough with the names. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And in that the precise order. Try to learn the books, the names of the books in the order as it is presented in the Bible, because from Genesis to Second Maccabees, let's say, this is narrated in some way, some chronological order. Not chronological, theological order. You will read the history of Israel, theological history of Israel from Genesis 1 to Maccabees. So it is better that you memorize these books in their precise order, so that how you know the story, the continuation of the story. So, because when you move forward in your studies, chronological order will be something different. Archaeological history of Israel should be something different. This is the theological history of Israel we are treating. So, in Genesis, so we have 5 books in the order. What is in Genesis? General structure of the Pentateuch, I told you that Exodus 22, Deuteronomy 34, you have the laws. And before that, you have the context in which the covenant is happening. And in the covenant, the laws are given. So that is the way. The laws are the consequences of the covenant that God had made with Israel. There comes the law. So this is the concept of the law. Now, we go to the first book, Genesis. What is Genesis? This is the question. Before the arrival of Charles Darwin, the evolution theory and so on, modern science, or you go to Copernicus, before that, the understanding of cosmology or the world, everything was different. Means people had the traditional notions till that period. It was so. There was some kind of improvement, that's all. All the modern scientific knowledge comes after. Before that, people used to learn things from the fathers, and they used to repeat the same, maybe same job and everything same. So at that time, the Bible is written at that period, let's say. And then there was no question, and there was a traditional way of saying things that way. And these words had their meaning. And what is Genesis is, actually the book is speaking about the origin of everything in the world, everything in the cosmos, let's say. Genesis is speaking about how everything originated. That is called Genesis. You have first chapter, God creating everything. And in the second chapter, God creating the family. Third chapter, you have how the death originates as a consequence of sin. Fourth chapter, you know how the hatred originates between the brothers. And the fifth, sixth, seventh chapter, how God punishes these people because of sin. Then you see God making a covenant with Noah. And so comes the Tower of Babel, where you will find that God has created one humankind, and God now scatters the people all over the world. And thus originated different languages. That is the what is narrated in the Bible. Don't read all this historically, because Bible is not a direct historical book. There is history in the Bible, but Bible is intending to communicate you the word of God, what God thinks about the relationships and what God wills and so on. This you don't just read as a historical book. There are people who read like that, but there is no sense in that, because the people will learn science. Science does not mean that all the hypotheses. Science with proof. When they bring a proof, you cannot object that way. So these are theological stories I will explain. Then you have in the 12th chapter the history of the call of Abraham. And Abraham is called in order to make a nation out of Abraham. And from Abraham, a nation is born, and that is called Israel. So Genesis speaks. Not clear means, is it my problem or because of the connection problem? Someone has written not clear. Can you please respond?
It is clear.
Okay, thank
Here
you.
it is clear.
Maybe because of the connection. Okay, you can at the end, if something is not clear, ask me. Or some way you'll think that it is the connection is lost, just tell me, that's all. Okay, because there is a limitation how far we can cover this. So it is better that you understand what I say. We are discussing about the book of Genesis, and this is speaking about the origin of everything. For example, you can go and read Genesis 3, for example, and find out, check how many etiological things are said there. I tell my students to read and check how many etiological statements are there. Some people will come up with 40 or some 30, some 20, so no. For example, in etiology means how everything originated. Genesis 3 is telling you that why the snakes do not walk on there. They are just what do you say? Moving on the ground, or how man when dies he become dust, and that is because he is taken from the dust. How they began to wear clothes, because when a man is born or a child is born, it is not clothes. So when they began to, and how man began to feel shame and so on. So the text is speaking about the origin of all these things. And thus we have from chapter 12 onwards, you have the origin of Israel. God is calling one person and then making a people out of him, and so Israel is born. And the covenant that God makes with Abraham so that Israel is born is found in chapter 17 of Genesis. Then story moves forward, and then comes chapter 25, chapter 22, where God tests Abraham. Then God gives a big promise of future Messiah coming. And in chapter 25, the story of Abraham will be closed. In chapter 26, precisely, it begins earlier, 25. You will find the story of Isaac. And then from chapter 25 onwards, 25, then 27, 28, you will find the story of Jacob till 36. And in 37 onwards, you will have the story of the 12 sons of Israel. And from these 12 sons of Jacob, Israel is originating, means these 12 sons are known as the eponymous fathers. They are the fathers of the tribes, and from them, Israel is originating. So this is book of Genesis is telling you that how everything in the world originated. And more importantly, it is speaking about how Israel originated. And for that, Abraham is called, and it goes that way. Now, when you are now learning theology, when you go to your family meetings or so on, you are interested to write your family history, let's think. You are interested to make your family history, what do you do? You will have to go and inquire all the places and find out all the ancestors, your ancestors, where do they come, and everything you check. And when you go with this research, at a moment you will reach a historical point where you cannot move any further. There is no more information. You are your research is over, because you know some person coming from somewhere and he's residing there. That's all. The further you cannot go. This, let's imagine in this way. When Israel, you have to always think, keep in mind that when they have written Genesis account, Exodus account, they were not thinking that we are writing the Bible. No, they were writing their history of salvation or God experience. And that slowly became the history of salvation. And then the Holy Spirit has taken all these words, that's all. So they were just writing their history. And they checked, history checked, and they found that their forefather is Abraham. So that is the beginning of the story. And you have the narration of the call of Abraham. And they write the history of their family of Abraham, then Isaac and Jacob, then the 12 sons, then their Egyptian, the slavery experience, then the redemption and moving and so on. This goes that way. This is a family history. But whenever you write something, you cannot just start in that way direct. You need some kind of introduction. So what the Genesis author or the Pentateuch author did was, he wrote a long introduction to this family history, and this you find in chapter 1 to 11, Genesis. You have the family history from chapter 12 onwards, where the call of Abraham happens. And before that, he's writing a history. No, an introduction. And what does he do? In this introductory part, basing on the history of Israel and theological thoughts and etc., he is telling you a lot of things by means of stories, theological stories. I will explain. This is so. You will ask to the text, why is the author, biblical author, narrating the creation of the world in 7 days? This is the first question. You cannot calculate this first day, light, then fourth day, sun, and so on. You cannot calculate in that way. Then the question is, why this is narrated in 7 days creation? There you have precise answer. That is the issue. First thing, these things may not be in your notes. This you have just to understand thing. And when you have some doubt about the note, ask me. The thing is, you all are Christians, I hope. I don't know whether someone else has registered. You all go to the church Sundays. I hope this is also true. And when you are evaluating a man, whether he's a good man or a good Christian and so on, the first thing that comes to your mind, not only your mind, the mind of everyone, is whether he goes to Sunday Mass, Sunday ceremony. If he doesn't go for Sunday Eucharist, automatically he is out of the group. He cannot be considered as a good Christian. This is normal. Good Catholic, you have to go to the Sunday celebration. Normal. And still further, if we say now, you have to go to your own parishes. This is normal. And if you go to Israel, what makes Israel or what makes Israel's identity means their Sabbath celebration. Sabbath celebration tells people that he is an Israelite. If he does not celebrate Sabbath, he is not an Israelite. He is not a part of the covenant. As a result, you will find a lot of text narrating in the Pentateuch, not only in Genesis, not only in Exodus, not only in Numbers, everywhere, the biblical authors telling you about the Sabbath celebration. So, Sabbath makes you different from all other people. With a simple example, I can tell you something. You can just imagine your neighbors. Probably you take some Hindu neighbors, normal Hindu neighbors, and you check whether he keeps the commandments. Fourth commandment, respecting the parents. Fifth commandment, sixth commandment, seventh commandment, eighth commandment, ninth and 10th. You will find that all these good people are Hindus, I mean, or some other religion, means Jains or Buddhists or so on. All these people keep all these commandments, 4 to 10, without any exception. Exception is that, like among Christians, or there are people who break the commandments. Also among Hindus and other people, there are people who break the commandments. Whereas normal people keep all these commandments. It is written in their conscience. So what makes a Christian different from all other people means he goes to the Sunday celebration. Sunday celebration implies that he is accepting God as his father and so on, creator and so on. So, an Israelite is different from all other people. This is because he celebrates Sabbath. That's why this identity consciousness that is written in the first chapter in the model of a narration, God creating everything in 6 days, and God creates man as his image, shadow, and on the day, seventh day, he takes rest, God. Automatically, the shadow should rest. You cannot imagine of some people remaining there and the shadow goes. No, you has to rest if you are in covenant with the Lord. That's why the first chapter is written in that way. And this is a story, a theological narration, which tells you about the relationships. And when you come to the second chapter, this is related to the first chapter. Second chapter is speaking about the family. In chapter 126, God says, let us create man as our image and our likeness. And God created man in his image, and he created them in his likeness. This is said that way. So man, Adam is, you can translate humankind. It is not one man. And God creating man as male and female. And how this creation is happening is narrated in the second part, the second chapter. And at the end of the second chapter, man is understanding or taking Eve as his own flesh and his own bone. That means, and the Bible says that there will be one flesh. And this is an eternal truth. Whatever family you may have this experience, a man and woman, when they have a good married life, they feel as if they are one flesh. One cannot exist without the other. And this happens in the world, in the history that you know, either from your history or from other people's history. I have seen several families that way. And this fact is told, this is created, and the husband and wife, they are individual persons, two persons, but they feel they are one flesh. This is the model of Trinity, actually. And this is the creation of God that is narrated in the second story of making Eve from the rib of Adam. And this is a theological story. This is not history. This is theological story. Third chapter, you have the first sin and how they are banished from the Garden of Eden. This is also related to the history of Israel. If you check the Garden of Eden narrative, chapter 2, you will find the boundaries of the Garden of Eden. You will find there, chapter 2, you can check words 10 onwards. Someone may read this one. Chapter 2, 10 onwards. Yeah.
Chapter 2, 10. A river flows out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divides and becomes 4 branches. The name of the first is Pishon. It is one that flows around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Tigris, which flows east of Assyria, and the fourth river is the Euphrates.
Okay, my question is this.
Thank you.
People living in the Holy Land, these are neighboring rivers. Did they knew this? That when the biblical author speaking about the borders of the land, he is speaking about 2 rivers in the north, this is in Iraq, and 2 in the south. Gihon is a spring in Jerusalem. Pishon is still south. So the Eden is not simply a garden. This is the symbol of, according to the biblical author, symbol of the Holy Land. And in the land, in the midst, God has planted 2 trees. One is the tree of life, which they could not eat at all. And the other one is, which they have eaten, tree of knowledge of good and evil. And if I tell you plainly, because there is no much time, plainly tell you what it is, this is the law that means 10 commandments precisely. That was remaining in the center, that means in the temple of Jerusalem. And he is speaking, taking this the history of Israel, how this land had the temple inside and the law inside. Lord said, "You shall obey these, shall not break." So they have broken. And what happened? They were expelled from the land in 587. This is the history of Israel, and that history is presented as if it's a story in chapter 3. This type of stories, eternal stories, are narrated in Genesis 1 to 11. They are so meaningful when you learn the whole thing. Now we don't have to learn we don't have the time to learn all these things here. But every story has a distinct meaning and eternal meaning. This does not simply tell you something happened sometime. No, this has got always an eternal meaning, and it has a word that the Bible wishes to communicate to you. And now there are atheists nowadays who come to the media and say, "Oh, they say it is from God, and this is a foolish text because so many things told here are foolish things." Yes, that is right. I will call them foolish because this is a text written 2000 years before. 2000 years before, the people had a comprehension of that period. If someone comes to tell these atheists things that will happen 500 years after now, the knowledge and science and so on, he may not understand anything, because this is possible to comprehend. This text was written to an old culture, old people, and what we take is only the message. What was God intending to communicate with them? That is always true today, yesterday, and tomorrow. So the Bible remains, atheist dies. This is normal. So 1 to 11 chapters Genesis, you have these theological stories telling you eternal truths. And chapter 12, you have, as we said, the story of Abraham. Then Abraham's story is narrated, and you have to read all these stories. We don't have time to discuss in detail. Then you have Isaac coming, son. God is moving so slowly. Then coming Jacob. Then he has 12 sons. And from the 12 sons, you have slowly Israel is emerging. And they were jealous of Joseph because the father loved him more. So they sold them to the Midianites, and they carried him to Egypt. But when God was with Joseph, and so he became a big figure in Egypt, second in command. And when there was a famine in Palestine, all the family of Jacob moved to Egypt, and they lived there 430 years. When they completed 430 years, they were hardworking people, and they gained more money and prosperity. Then the local Egyptians became jealous of them, and they made them slaves. And they cried to the God of their fathers, because they do not know the God. They cried to the God of their fathers, and God sent them two people, Moses and Aaron. They were the sons of Levi. Levi means son of Jacob. From that family comes Moses and Aaron. And they went to speak to Pharaoh, and they discussed with him. God sent the plagues, and at the end, they liberated them from slavery, and they moved to the holy mountain, the Mount Sinai. As I mentioned earlier in the beginning, on that ground, Moses asked them, God asked them through Moses, you have seen all these things, and if you like, we will make a covenant. Make covenant is always happening in the context of multiple possibilities. In your village, for example, if there is only one shop, you are forced to go and buy things from there. There is no choice. Whereas when there are several shops, you intend to make a big business, you can make a covenant, an agreement that I will buy so many pieces and you pay me this price. So that way, that is a covenant. And in the ancient Near East, they were thinking of so many gods. And that is a context when God comes and tells you, if you like to be my people, I will be your God. And they agreed. If they agree, both these parties, God and the people, both have duties. If you make an agreement, a covenant, both of you have a agreement. For example, I go and tell in a shop that this year I will be buying 1,000 pieces of so and so something, and what will be the price? Then he say, normally this costs 1,000 rupees. I will give you for 700 because you are going to buy 1,000 pieces. This is agreement. Both parties have agreement. No obligations. So if you are going to be my people, you have to keep my commandments. People said yes. And so God is giving from chapter 20 onwards, Exodus chapter 20 onwards, you will find the 10 commandments and other laws God is giving. In chapter 20, you have 10 commandments, then other laws. And chapter 23, it is closed. And 24, you will find the first covenant. The covenant people, covenant is happening in chapter 24. They are killing an animal and sprinkling the blood on the people and on the book that the law on this the book was the law was written. So the covenant happens, and this is the part of the people. They are taking the law of God. On God's part, God has also an obligation. God said, if you are going to obey my commandments, I am going to abide with you. As part of the covenant, I will abide with you. If so, you have to make a tabernacle, a temple. And in chapter 25, Exodus 25 onwards till 40, you will find the whole thing, that is how to make the tabernacle, the temple, and how they made it. And at the end, you will find in chapter 40, when the tabernacle was completed, God comes and abides with them. So, as a result of the covenant, people got the laws written in their hands, and God began to abide with them in a temple. This is normal. So, the book of Exodus speaks you about the covenant and how Israel has become the people of God. In Genesis, you have how they emerged historically. They said, now they have the covenant and they become people of God. Now, in this chapter, there is another story narrated. That is in chapter 32. You know the story of golden calf. This what is happening. After the covenant, God told Moses to go up the mountain so that the tablets of the covenant, the 10 commandments, God will write and give him. So Moses went up. But when Moses became late to come back, people they have lost their patience, and they persuaded Aaron to make a golden calf so that they can worship. This is idolatry, and this is the biggest sin in Genesis to Maccabees, part of the Old Testament. The Old Testament in general, if you set aside the wisdom books, what is the biggest sin? This is idolatry. And in Hebrew, they say the sin. The big sin is presented in chapter 32, idolatry, and God punished them because of the intercession of Moses. They did not kill everyone, but those who worshipped the golden calves all were killed, destroyed. Also the Levites came into force. And again, the tablet was once again written and given. That is everything narrated in the book as the story goes. General thing I told you. Now we are still in on Mount Sinai. I will show you a map. If you don't see, tell me. Can you see this map?
Yes,
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 Father. Yes,
we
yes.
can.
Yes, Father.
This is the Mediterranean world where the Bible is speaking about the world, Mediterranean world. Here you have the Turkey of that time. This is Asia Minor. Here you have the Arabian part. This is South, the Egyptian part. Here you have Greece and further Europe. And this is the Mediterranean. Bible is speaking always about the Mediterranean world. And in the eastern part, you will find here, where I hope you can see the mouse. Here you have the Galilee, Sea of Galilee. And you have coming down Jordan River. And here you have Dead Sea. Dead Sea. And down you have Red Sea. This is Mount Sinai, means the Sinai Peninsula. And this part between Mediterranean and Jordan, this is the so-called Palestine or province of Canaan. So this is first map. I will show you another map also, so for clarity. Here you have the Sinai Peninsula. This is Egypt. This you have the Red Sea. Coming up, you will find Edom written. Then you have the Dead Sea. Then going up, you have the Sea of Galilee. Again up, there is a small lake. Hule it is called. Then further, the Jordan goes as three branches and reaches Dan and the name I should remember. There are three sources coming, and the river flows down and reaches the Dead Sea, which is around 400 meters below sea level. This is sea level, and this is below. Dead Sea. Some of you might have seen this. So, what is happening? Israel was in Egypt. Moses and Aaron liberated them, and they led to Mount Sinai. Normally, Mount Sinai is set here in the southern part of Sinai Peninsula. And there they have all these covenants and everything set. They have also set the tabernacle, the temple. That was something they could carry after dismantling this. Then, what is happening in book of Leviticus is related to this. That is, if some main guest comes to your house, what you will do? You will have to have a room. You will have to prepare special food. You will have to arrange your life. And you may not be, it may not be easy for you to watch the TV sometime. It may not be possible for you to speak loudly. This depends on the guest. If God comes and abides with them, they will have to arrange certain things. First things, they have to go to visit God and offer sacrifices. This you will find in Leviticus chapter 1 to 7. You have the Bible, isn't it? You can open this. You will find all the sacrifices in Israelite cult is written. That means when I sin, I have to offer a sacrifice. According to the different sins, different sacrifices. I have a celebration, I offer another sacrifice. I make an agreement, I make another sacrifice. So several types of sacrifices and their contexts are narrated in chapter 1 to 7. In the first chapter, you will find burnt offering. Then in chapter 2, grain offering. Then you have well-being offering, shalamim it is called. A fourth, sin offering. Then you have offerings of restitution, chapter 5. Then you have chapter 6, instructions concerning sacrifices. So go all the sacrifices in Israel cult, all the sacrifices they have to do in the temple. And that is not enough. In order to make the sacrifices, you need the priest. So chapter 8 and 9 is giving you how the priests are ordained to be ordained. How the priests are to be ordained. In chapter 10, after being ordained, there was a kind of some kind of rebellion, like in the Church of Kerala now happens, priest rebellion, which may not be happening. So rebellion, and this is punished very, very harshly by God in chapter 10. That means in priesthood, you are not expected to do all these things. And from 11 to 16 chapters. So please remember, chapter 1 to 7, you have all the sacrifices. And that name and the type and the context and the way they have to do, everything is narrated there. Then 8 and 9, you have the priest ordination, those who have to administer the sacrifice. Then chapter 11 to 16, you have the purification works that the priests have to do in favor of the people. How the priests have to purify the people is narrated in chapter 11 to 16. From 17 to 27, you have a commandment of God, what they have to do to be a holy people. As they are people, covenant people, they cannot lead a life similar to other people. They should be distinct. So, as I am holy who have called you, you also have to be holy. This is the basic. There it is said that you have to love your neighbor as yourself and so on. So what people have to do? So these are the things narrated in the book of Leviticus. This is when God comes and abides with them. They have to arrange their life, and they have to offer sacrifices, visit God, and so on, so on. Then they need the priests for the sacrifices because they are the ministers in the house of the Lord. Then they have the priests serving them with several purification rites. Then you have also what people have to do to be holy. Things are said, the holiness code. This is chapter 17 to 27. One of the important chapters to note is chapter 16, where you have the Yom Kippur. In Israel, Yom Kippur is very, very important. This is an annual celebration of purification. God is holy. God is abiding with the people in the temple, in the temporary temple tabernacle. And the sinners are every day visiting God. When constantly the sinners come and go, the temple will lose its purity. Then they need an annual purification. And this is narrated in chapter 16. You can read this. They are bringing two goat and another animal that is sacrificed for the priest. And these lambs are, one is killed and the blood is sprinkled. The other is sent out to the desert so that it dies. That is the lamb that carry the sins of the world. And this way, book of Leviticus ends, and still we are on Mount Sinai. We are remaining there. So the journey has to be continued. The next book comes. Next book is Numbers. Usually when some people ask, I have the experiences. When I ask people what is narrated in Numbers, they say they are just numbers, several numbers. This is not true. The book of Numbers tells you the story of Israel that is moving from Mount Sinai. They are moving towards the Holy Land. Holy Land, this portion is the Holy Land. Land between Mediterranean and the Jordan River. This portion is the Holy Land. and the people moving towards the Holy Land. And when they go, they had some kind of problem here, and they go this way and come to the eastern borders of the land, plains of Moab. And the whole journey is narrated in the book of Numbers. So the book of Numbers now tells you the story of the desert journey, wilderness journey of Israel from Mount Sinai to the eastern borders of the Holy Land. This is narrated in Numbers. And so you will find certain sections tell you how they move forward. Then God is traveling with them in the tent, and occasionally Moses visited God in the tent, and God gave Moses several other laws that Israel had to obey as people of God. Means they are moving in the wilderness, and often Moses visits God in the tent, and God gives them the laws. And so the journey moves. And this takes 40 years of journey. And how the 40 years happened, I will tell you now. You can turn over pages, chapter 13 of Numbers. You will find there's a rebellion happening there. When they reached from Mount Sinai, they started the journey and they reached the southern borders of Palestine. I hope that you can see this mouse. They moved from here, Mount Sinai, and reached the southern borders of Palestine. Palestine begins somewhere here. And there, God asked them to go and conquer the land. So what they have to do is just enter and conquer the land. But then there was a problem. They thought humanly. They began to think humanly. And they said, no, this is not logical. Just go and conquering because we are not so strong. So first we go and spy to see what is in the land and how powerful the people are and so on, details. Spy out. Then we come back and we will find out the weakness of the land, and then we will go and conquer the land. This is simply a human thinking. So they went, God agreed, they went into the land, and they visited they spied out the land for 40 days. 40 days. From each tribe, one person. For each tribe, one person. So 12 people going to the land, and they saw everything, and they found that the land was so what do you say? So valuable land, or this was land with milk and honey running. But they came and report something bad. They said, we are so weak, we are unable to conquer the people living in the land because they are very strong. Then God was so angry, let's say. What is the problem? These people have seen how God had defeated the great Pharaoh, and he has brought them out of the land of Egypt. And when they came to the small land, they were planning humanly, and they were no more trusting God. Not trusting God is the second sin. In Pentateuch, you have only two major sins, big sins. One is idolatry. Second is lack of trust. Since they did not trust in God, and at the same time they lamented that our children and our wives, they will die in the desert because we go for war, and we will die in the war there, and our children die in the desert. Since they lamented that way, God said, since you did this way and you have observed the land for 40 years, you will be wandering in the desert for 40 years as a punishment, till every one of you die in the desert, except those children about whom they were concerned that they will die, they will enter the land, God said. So this is the case of story of 40 years. So God said, just move back and go to southern to the Red Sea side, and they had to travel 40 years. But fortunately, all these 40 years, God was also traveling. And in between, God was giving all his commandments. And this is narrated in the book of Numbers. So, book of Numbers is not simply numbers. In the first chapter, you have a number. That means they are taking the census of everyone who is coming out of the land of Egypt. And in chapter 26, you have another census. That is the second census after the generation died. God is asking them to take a census. This is the second census. That is the census of all the people who are going to enter the land. And in between, something is happening. I just forgot. Okay. Now they came to the eastern borders of the land. There, God told Moses that you shall not enter in the land because you are not totally faithful. So you can just go to Mount Nebo, climb up the hill and see the whole land. If you go to Jordan, you can find from Mount Nebo, you can see the whole land. It is not so big as you might think. You can see the whole land from Mount Nebo, from north to south. And Moses died there. This is narrated. And before his death, Moses' death is narrated in the last chapter of Deuteronomy. Before his death, now what do you have? You have, yes, that was I wanted to say. In chapter 25, there is a plague happening, Balpeor, and all this generation, all the people who came out of Egypt died in that what is it, in that plague. Only Joshua and Caleb remained. Joshua and Caleb. The rest of the people died in the desert, Balpeor, and now you have a new generation. This is the sons of the people who came from Egypt. And now Moses, what is he doing? He, before his death, Moses is giving the new generation the law once again that God had given from Sinai. Then on all these ways, God was given them the laws, and Moses repeated these laws to the second generation. That is what you find in book of Deuteronomy. This is one sermon of Moses. If you go through the book, you can find that this is the sermon of Moses. Moses is speaking other side of Jordan on the 40th year, and the context you understood that this is second generation and Moses is repeating the law. That is why it is called Deuteronomium, means Deutero means second, nomos means law, the second law. For example, you can see many things repeated. You can go to chapter 20 of Exodus. Chapter 20 of Exodus, you can just turn over the pages. And you can find open chapter 5 of Deuteronomy. Both chapters repeat the same 10 commandments. Or chapter 12 of Exodus and 16 of Deuteronomy, where you will find the Passover celebration. So the laws are repeated. The context, I hope you understood. Before his death, Moses is telling, this is simply in the plains of Moab. Moses is just telling them, repeating the law, and that is why this is called the second law, the Deuteronomy. And this is what is happening in Pentateuch. And now I will tell you some prophecies in Pentateuch, which will be helpful in your learning of the Bible. You can go to chapter 3:15 verses. Someone may read the words.
Chapter
3, Genesis 15. This is something you know.
says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel.
Okay, this is a promise after the first sin. There is a kind of enmity happening in the world between the sons of Eve and the sons of devil. And this is still happening even today. You can find this people fighting against the church and the moral system. You will find even today. And you go to Genesis chapter 22. 22:18.
18, Father?
Yeah, 18.
It says, and by your offspring shall all the nations of the earth gain blessing for themselves, because you have obeyed my voice.
Okay. In your offspring, all the nations will be blessed. This is a promise which normally no Jewish person can understand. This is a true promise of God that was happening. This is what we call inspiration, prophecy. Prophecy is often when people speak, it has a meaning and slowly it gains another meaning. But here you have a direct prophecy which says that Abraham, after his all the faith journey, he was ready to offer his son. So God said, now I know that you have fear of God. And since you have made such a commitment, in your offspring, the whole nations will be blessed. Means Jews are tribal people. They never think about the whole world being redeemed. This is not comprehensible for them. But in the word of God, you will find that this is already promised. You can go to the letter to the Galatians chapter 3:16, 15 and 16.
Brothers and sisters, I give an example from daily life. Once a person's will has been ratified, no one adds to it or annuls it. Now, the promises were made to Abraham and to his offspring. It does not say and to offsprings as of many, but it says and to your offspring, that is to one person who is Christ.
So in the promise to Abraham, God's promise, actually Christ is seen in your offspring. The nations will be blessed. This is not a blessing to the Jews because nations, and it is not also not comprehensible for the Jews. So this is one of the important promises in the prophecies in the Pentateuch. You can go to Exodus chapter 3, another important verse you might learn from Pentateuch chapter 3,
Yes, Father.
chapter 3, 14 and 15.
God said to Moses, I am who I am. He said further, thus you shall say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, thus you shall say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my title for all generations.
Okay, thank you. Here the name Yahweh is given. You might be knowing, if you go to the Bible, when you find God, the word God, this is the translation of Elohim, God. This is a common noun, Elohim. When you find in English it's Lord, this is the translation of Yahweh. And this is the name. And the important thing that you have to understand is God has revealed his name after saying Ehi Asher Ehi, Hebrew. That is, I am the Lord. Lord is translation. I am Yahweh, and this is my name forever. And this remains so strong forever. And in the New Testament, this is not changed. God's name is Yahweh, and the translation is Lord. people normally say, no, in English they say Lord or Mister, or in other languages, Signor or Curios. So these are only simply local language. Yahweh is the name. In the New Testament, this is not changed. We can go to Luke chapter 143. Luke chapter 143.
It says,
Yeah.
and why has this happened to me, that the mother of my Lord comes to me?
Okay. The mother of my Lord. Lord means my Yahweh comes to me. This is what is said in the text. Curious. Curious. The same is said as you know, John 20:28. John 20:28.
20:28.
Yeah.
Jesus. Thomas answered him, my Lord and my God.
Thomas answered him, my Yahweh, my Elohim. This is said. So God said, this is my name forever. So what I mean is, some people come and tell you that the God Allah and God Yahweh are one. No, Allah is never so. This is Yahweh and the name remains forever. This is said in Exodus 3:14 and 15 that way. So there is no confusion with regard to that. Now we may read one more promise, not one more, we can take more. You can go to Numbers chapter 24:17. Another promise. Numbers 24:17.
I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. It shall crush the borderlands of Moab, and the territory of all the Shethites.
Okay. So here Balaam is prophesying, I see him, but not now. This is a prophecy about someone. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. It is not going to happen near future. A star shall come out of Jacob. From Jacob, a star shall come out. And this is, in chapter 2 of Gospel of Matthew, you will find a star coming out, isn't it? 2 or 1? Chapter 2.
The two.
Visit of the wise men, you see?
This is the birth of Jesus the Messiah, which is in first chapter.
2.
The Jesus wise men from Egypt came to Jerusalem.
Continue, please read.
Okay, who has been born king for the Jews? For we have observed his star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage.
Okay, here the interesting thing is that Balaam, who prophesies this in chapter book of Numbers, is not an Israelite, and the people who see the star is also not Israelite. So this is something interesting in the whole biblical narrative. When the book of Numbers was written, it was not there. And you can go to Deuteronomy chapter 18.
Chapter 18.
18, 15 to 18.
A new prophet like Moses.
Yeah.
The Lord your God will raise you up for you a prophet like me from among your own people. You shall heed such a prophet. This is what your request of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, if I hear the voice of the Lord my God any more, or ever again see this great fire, I will die. Then the Lord replied to me, they are right in what they have said. I will rise up for them a prophet like you from among their own people. I will put my words in the mouth of the prophet, who shall speak to them everything that I command.
Please continue.
Anyone who does not heed the words that the prophet shall speak in my name, I myself will hold accountable. But Any prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, or who presumes to speak in my name a word that I have not commanded to the prophet to speak, that prophet shall die. You may say to yourself, how can we recognize?
Okay, enough. That is how you value a prophet. If a prophet says something, if it does not happen, he's not a true prophet, is said. Here you have again a prophecy about Jesus. First thing, the Lord your God will rise up for you a prophet like me. This is Moses is telling the people that the Lord will rise up another prophet like me. And what is the they have to do?
Read such a prophet. You have to listen to
You
him.
have to hear that prophet. If you don't hear that prophet, you are not worthy to live. You have to obey. And if any prophet comes in the name of some other gods, he shall be killed. So this is very strict, the law. No prophet can come and speak in the name of another god. No. That's why I am very strict about these things. You cannot say this is Quraishi God and Yahweh are one and the same. And now please go to chapter 5. I hope that everyone is going through the Bible now. Chapter 5. Please read chapter 5, verse 17.
You shall not murder.
Sorry.
Deuteronomy chapter 5 also.
Matthew chapter 5, 17. I thought that I was mistaken.
Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill.
Okay,
For
enough. So Jesus, sometime they had some kind of doubt. This man is coming to abolish all the law and the prophets. That was true because Jesus did not give heed to all the laws because it was not passing to his nature. That is human understanding, So he says that don't think that I am going to destroy everything. No, I am going to fulfill. And then what is going on? Please read verse 21.
you have
You
heard
have
that
Hmm.
You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment.
Okay, the question. Where did they hear this? This was the law in the 10 Commandments given by Moses to Israelites, right or wrong?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
You have heard that it was said to those ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you, if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. Jesus is giving a new law. And go to verse 27.
You have heard that it was said, You shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her.
Okay, enough. Here Jesus is coming up with a new law. And go to 31 verse.
It was also said, Whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery.
Okay,
And
enough. In Deuteronomy 24, there is a law Moses giving. That was a good law in the sense that sometime they used to divorce. The man divorced his wife. Then problem was this way. He divorces his wife, and sometimes this woman some way gets in contact with another man, and when she begin to live a new life, this man goes and accuses her of adultery because this is his wife and she is now going on. So he can stone her. In order to avoid this situation, Moses asked them, if you divorce your wife, give her a paper of divorce. This was the law given by Moses. That is a good law at that time. And Jesus says, no, I have another law. Again, 33, verse 33.
Verse 33.
Yet you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it
Okay,
is the
enough.
temple.
I hope that you understood the concept. Moses had promised that a new prophet will come like me, and God will put all his laws in his mouth, and you are obliged to hear that prophet, and that is Jesus. And this is the connection between Pentateuch and the New Testament. There are several things. This is just for your general idea. And now I'm going to stop here. You can some questions you can ask now.